We've discussed philosophy. Now I want to focus on some Greek cultural contributions. This is an introduction to some of the most important figures. We'll expand on this in class as well as your guided reading. Remember, pre-classical era, you have the Greek mythology, you have the epic poems of Homer, Hesiod, Sappho, just to name a few. 600s, we start to see tyrannical reformers. 5 to 400, we get the Persian War, the Athenian Empire, and the Peloponnesian Wars. Much like we saw the development of philosophy have sort of the same backdrop here, we're going to see classical Greek culture, not archaic age, but classical Greek culture emerge. One of the most important contributions to classical Greek culture is the Greek theater. You can see right there, that's a picture of an amphitheater, usually built into the hillside. Most of your city-states had various amphitheaters in it. Down here in the right, you have a stage. Now you don't see this, but now because it's in ruins, but you would have it a bunch of people in the back. You would have oftentimes different set decorations, the whole deal. They started out as festivals worshiping Dionysus, the god of wine and fertility. It evolves into an art form. There's still an influence on it today. You have, back on the stage, you have the chorus, and they sort of act as a narrator for what is going on in the play. Only men were allowed to be actors. Okay, so you had men playing both male and female parts. Oftentimes, and you have a couple of examples here in the left and right corners at the top, and they were large masks that convey a certain emotion. You really couldn't see. There wasn't no big screen behind here where you could just see what was going on close up. So they wore these large masks to convey different emotions. You have really two areas of Greek plays that develop: tragedy and comedy. Tragedy is going to develop first. You've actually already read tragedy. You've read excerpts from Antigone in class, and you've read excerpts from Oedipus in class. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about some of our most important playwrights in Greek theater. Aeschylus and Euripides are two of the fathers of this Greek tragedy. One of the earliest tragedies that we get is about the Persian Wars. It's almost like a war film today. He's writing in this backdrop of the Battle of Marathon. His play entitled The Persians is the earliest known play by any playwright that we ever have in history. What you see, whether you're talking about philosophy, whether you're talking about playwrights like Aeschylus here, is you see it developing as a natural reaction to the ever-evolving world around the Greeks, around the polis system, around changing alliances. You see that historical facts that we spent a lot of time talking about in Chapter 2. Now you're seeing the cultural and later on economic results of that. You're seeing the influence that the world around them is having on what they are talking about, what they are focusing on. Another one of these early important figures to remember is Euripides. Now, he is the one that's credited with returning these Greek religious ceremonies, oftentimes dedicated to Dionysus, into the idea of a modern theater. His contributions include the prologue, the opening scene which sets the stage for what is to come, the Due Machina, a storytelling device that ties up the loose ends. Okay, so the beginning and the end. His most important contribution was realism. He focused on the personal instead of religious subjects, meaning once again, we see an increased emphasis on the here and now. It's moving away from, hey, let's get together and drink some wine and celebrate Dionysus and have some people read some plays or narrations. And we're getting to the real nit and gritty of what society looks like in Greece. And they're doing it in the form of plays, and that's important. Some of his plays include the Bacchia, the Medea, the Electra, and the Trojan Women. Aristophanes. He is considered the father of Greek comedy. He wrote a play called The Frogs. It's a satire. It's about a plague. Yes, he's making plague funny. The clouds, like that old expression, you've got your head in the clouds. You probably never heard of that. I have all the time. I'm old. What can I do? What he's doing is he's poking fun at Socrates. He's saying, okay, questioning the here and now and the why and what I know. Okay, well, what does that practically do for society? He's arguing that it really doesn't do anything. They're just sitting around saying, why? All day long. So it's a comedy. You have read Sophocles. He is a Greek tragic playwright, perhaps the most well-known Greek tragic playwright. He's still read in English classes across countries today, and some history classes too. His most famous play, Oedipus Rex, or Oedipus the King, that's what Rex is referring to, and Antigone. Both of them deal with great personal loss, both of them deal with great personal tragedy, and they deal with, particularly with Antigone, the almost quarrel that is going on in this ever-evolving Greek polis system. Whose laws are more important? God's laws, the laws of the gods, or the laws created by men in this new democratic polis system? When we talk about the Greeks are the first to do a lot of things. Development of philosophy, development of the Greek tragedy and comedy, and also the idea of recording history more than just from a Mesopotamian economic perspective of keeping records. You have Herodotus, who is our first known historian in the world. Guess what? His subject is the Persian Wars. He is known as the father of history. His book, aptly titled History, contains two main parts. The first is a description of the population of the Persian Empire, a guide to their customs geography. Who are the Persians? Who are these great rivals in the Aegean Sea to Athens and larger Greece? The second is the history of the wars between Persia and Greece, the Persian Wars. He writes a history on it. Now, keep this in mind. Herodotus is not exactly a conventional historian as we would call him today. He still discusses the interaction of gods in human affairs. But what Herodotus is, and why he is considered the father of history, is he makes that bridge of, we're not just talking about it in a mythological standpoint, we're not just talking about which gods favor who and why, we're really getting down to the, hey, these events may have actually happened. If we sort of remove the interaction and the intervening of gods in this, much of what Herodotus is saying, we can see it backed up in artifacts. It's not completely trustworthy if you were to aport Herodotus, but many parts of it are. It really is a window into what is happening with these Persian wars, and his description of the Persian Empire itself. Another historian that we need to discuss, Thucydides. He wrote the first work of scientific history. Now, all we're really talking about here, guys, is the fact that he's not discussing so much this intervention of the gods. So he's oftentimes said to be the first objective historian. He really isn't an objective historian. He's credited as being so, but he isn't. He's an Athenian. He's writing from an Athenian perspective, and his major topic is the Peloponnesian conflict. So you have a guy from Athens who's writing history from an Athenian perspective about Athens fighting Sparta, their biggest rivals in the region. So when you take a look at what Thucydides is saying about Spartans, you have to take it with a grain of salt. So just remember, Thucydides credited with objective history. His major topic, Peloponnesian Wars, and he's an Athenian. So keep that in mind when you take a look at Thucydides. Let's talk some Greek art. Okay, this is an artist rendition. This does not survive, but the famous sculptor Phidias. This is a depiction of what would have been in the center of the Parthenon in Athens, a huge statue dedicated to Athena. So you've got Zeus at Olympia and Athena at the Parthenon. If you take a look at Phidias, it's an early work. These guys, remember, the nature of Greek mythology from the reading is that they're not all that different from humans. They're sort of the perfect form of humans. Well, you know, these huge muscle-bound creatures. Okay, but with great accuracy and great detail. Phidias is one of the most important sculptors. He helps design parts of the Parthenon when it is rebuilt during the age of Pericles. And of course, his work is going to be very influential on later on Roman architecture and even Renaissance sculpting. What we see here is we see a shift during the classical era. Not just from, say, Phidias, where he's doing, you know, the perfect form, the gods. We definitely see a shift. These Kouros, K-O-U-R-O-S, Kouros, these sculptures of men, are going to go through a transformation during this time, during the classical era. Once again, it's a reflection during the classical era more on the here and now, what's going on in the everyday Greek life. On the left, you see more of the perfect form, this perfect figure, statuesque, in the nude. This is what a man should look like. On the right, you see an old, tired man, once again, walking. He does have some clothes on, thank goodness. But this is not the perfect man. This is a more realistic depiction, and we're going to start to see this shift happen. A lot of it is, once again, much like philosophy, Greek tragedy, Greek comedy, it is a reaction to what is going on in the world around them. So that brings us to the end of part 1 for our Greek cultural discussion. An overriding question here, something that you may be asked in class, be able to give some specific examples of, is how did the historical events of classical Greece influence the cultural movement or movements of classical Greece? Okay, so think about what you just said, or what I just said, and what you just saw, and hopefully annotated with your notes, and think about that question. These things are not happening independently. One of the most important aspects of this class is that you can make those connections. So see what connections you can come up with. We'll discuss it in class. Thanks for listening.